What is going on, guys? It is Daniel Wright, and you are here listening to another episode of Paving the Ways. Guys, happy Wednesday morning to you, or whatever day it is you're listening to this. I hope it's going great for you. Hope you're having a great week. Hope you're set up for a fantastic rest of your week. For those of us here listening in the United States, which the only reason I say that is because I know I got a couple people from up in Canada, and I think one metric showed me somebody from like Indonesia listens to this. But United States, folks, I hope you had a fantastic time celebrating Independence Day last weekend. Just getting to be fortunate for our freedoms, and also not forgetting to think about those who've paid the ultimate sacrifice so that we can have these freedoms that we get to enjoy day in and day out. One of those freedoms is the freedom of speech, and that is why I'm here talking to you week in and week out on my shows here about some leadership stuff, some business development stuff, just different lessons and things that I've learned over the years that I try to pass along to you guys. That's the whole point of this show. That's the whole reason I started it a couple years ago, and that's the whole reason we got, what are we at now? 163 episodes in. So you've got over 163 weeks of life lessons from Daniel, and those come from business and personal experiences, and I'm sure there are a ton of nuggets that you can pull out of the archives of Spotify and iTunes and YouTube videos that you got here. But nonetheless, guys, as always, like I said, I appreciate you tuning in. This week, what I am doing is pulling one out of the archives from a couple weeks ago. We had a question get asked on our YouTube post. I think it was back around episode 155 or so. So it was a couple weeks back, but I've been holding on to it for the right time to kind of talk about it. And so that's what I'm going to get into today is it's kind of a three-part-ish question that they asked about offering new services, how you go about doing that, paying yourself, whether it's the individual or the company, and then project management. So I'm going to kind of dive into those couple things, how we've done it over the years, how we currently do it, and how we hope to do it in the future. And hopefully that is some information that can help you in whatever facet that it can help you in. So with that being said, let's get started. All right, guys. All right. Like I said, we are going to be jumping into some Q&A, being it's a question that was submitted on one of our YouTube episodes. It was back on episode 156. So it was about, 8 weeks or so ago, 7 or 8 weeks, that Maddie here, he's submitted some questions in the past. Salty's World 3733. I'm sure you're listening to this right now. Maddie, I appreciate your continued engagement and continued support in what we're doing here at Paving the Way. And continuing to provide value, right? I mean, on the comment that you submitted, it had a lot of information on there from what you've kind of been doing, what you've been hearing, what you've been learning, but then also ending it with some questions. Guys, we've all been told before, right? We probably heard it in grade school is, hey, if you have a question, raise your hand and ask it, because chances are you're probably not the only one who has that question. So I encourage you guys to follow Maddie's lead here and be vulnerable, be willing to ask the questions, because unlike some other places on the internet, this is a place where you can ask the questions, and I'm not going to scoff at you. We aren't going to laugh at you. We aren't going to make jokes about it. We're going to genuinely try to help you get better, help you grow, because that is what this show, Paving the Way, is all about. It's about paving the way for the future generations, the future business owners, the future leaders who want to try and create a better life for themselves. And these are the resources, these are the shows, these are the topics that are going to help that. So I'm going to get into this and off of my soapbox and try and get into some question answering here. So I won't read the whole comment he put on there. If you want to see that, like I said, it's back on episode 156 on our YouTube channel. But nonetheless, his question here is this. He says, since I am newer to the space being the pavement industry, I have already started to sub out subcontracting services that are beyond what I can offer. Have you had to subcontract, and what advice do you give when working with subcontractors? How do you do expectations? How do you pay yourself on those jobs? And how do you monitor the work and relationships? So like I said, the three main things I got out of that question is offering the new services that you don't offer yourself, but yet you can get them done for your clients, paying yourself on those services that you're using subcontractors for, and project management, as well as relationship management. That kind of all goes in hand. So I'll start with offering new services. So to answer your question directly, Maddie, yes, we utilize subcontractors for a variety of different services that we do not offer in-house, right? And so the way I explain this to our clients when certain projects, certain scopes get brought to our attention, that I know that we are not going to be able to perform in-house, such as repaving an entire parking lot, tearing out hundreds of feet of sidewalk and replacing it, concrete driveways, dumpster pads, big projects that require a lot of heavy equipment, a lot of trucks, and a lot of people. I know that we do not do those in-house, so we use subcontractors. We refer to them as partners. But we use partners on these jobs that we don't do in-house. And I tell the clients, I say, look, I said, this is something we can absolutely get done for you. However, I just want to be upfront and let you know, our crew is not going to be the ones performing the work. I let them know that we have partners that we work with to get this done, that we have negotiated pricing, negotiating rates, and it's no different than us being the wholesaler, we'd be the retailer to the end user, and then they give us wholesale pricing. So that way, when you're looking at our proposals, our estimates, side by side with another company who might be all self-performing, we are likely going to be pretty competitive, right? We don't always try to go out to be the cheapest and be the low cost, but nonetheless, we want to make sure that the price we're getting from our partners allows us enough room to mark it up, to pay for our efforts and our work that's going into getting this work, managing it, so on and so forth, which according to the topic here, we'll be discussing those momentarily. But we want to be able to mark it up and sell it to the client at a reasonable retail rate. And so that's what I explain to the clients is straight up front. And I say, look, the only way I make my money is by coming out here and meeting with you, getting all the details of the scope, putting all that together, getting it over to our partner contractor we work with. They give me their price on it. I put my markup on it, which is how I get paid. And then I go ahead and deliver it to you. You hire us, and then we manage the project for you. So we kind of adopted the saying of we're one throat to choke. So that way we can be that, more or less, project manager over the whole scope. I don't like to refer to us as the general contractor because that's not what we do. We specialize in specific services that we offer that are in our wheelhouse. We are not a general contractor by any stretch of the imagination. So we've built a model that is hybrid, right? So the seal coating, the pothole repairs, the striping, signs, all the stuff, the more basic maintenance, we perform those in-house. And then we have a side of our business that we do subcontracting work. It's worked for us over the years because it's allowed us to be more versatile with our clients and be able to meet their needs that they have, even if we can't do them in-house. Most clients that we work with don't have an issue with it. Every now and then you get the one client who wants to think they're going to be smart and, cut you out and try and get the cheaper price and say, well, if you're going to just, use a partner or a subcontractor, why don't I just go to them? I say, hey, you can, but their price to you is not going to be the same as their price to me. So my price to you is what their price to you is going to be. We've worked out a negotiated deal. And the way you can do that with partners and subcontractors is if you, as the person who's subbing them out, if you develop a strong enough and consistent enough relationship with them, then they're going to be more willing to cut their margins a little bit because they understand how it works, that you can't just be a pass-through and do this for free. You need to make some money on the deal. Otherwise, you're not going to want to keep doing it, and therefore that subcontractor is eventually not going to continue getting more opportunities to work with you or work with your clients. So as long as you have a structure in place that's reasonable, with your subcontractor, and you can reasonably mark it up to still be competitive with your market for the services you're quoting, then it's a model that I think works perfectly fine. But like I said earlier, you have to make sure you're getting paid, because for a long time, I kind of saw the subcontracted side as just kind of an extra thing. I didn't really worry about making any money on that. And I was just like, well, I'll do these subcontracted jobs to make very little money to keep this client happy so that if they need something else that we perform in-house, hopefully they'll call me to do that too. Eventually, word got around that apparently Proline is pretty good at everything that we do, including working with our subcontractors. So therefore, we started getting more work that involves subs. So when that became more of a thing that we did and we were putting more time, energy, and effort into selling and managing these subcontracted projects, we realize, okay, at this point, it's not a pass through. We have to make some money on this. And so we have set margins for different tiers of projects that we do, different types of services that we offer. And that's something you're going to have to determine on your own, Maddie, is, what kind of margins do you want to make? If your subcontractor is going to come do something for $2,500 and you can reasonably sell it for $3,500 and make $1,000 on it, that's up to you to determine that. You have to be able to sell and deliver on the value that you're going to sell that client the project for. So if you're going to say that you're going to make $1,000 on that tiny little job, you better be ready to deliver the value that's worth every penny of it. You also better be ready to take very good care of your subcontractor so that they enjoy working with you, bringing them all the details, setting them up for success, being there to support them, making their life as easy as possible so that way all they have to do is put a number on it and complete the project. That's the only way that they're going to feel good enough for giving you a less than retail rate and make you be able to be competitive when you're going to sell it. So when you ask how you pay yourself, it's really up to each individual person. Like I said, our different projects are different sizes. We have different margins we try to hit and try to make sure that we're being reasonable to our clients, that we're not asking our contractors to cut down too much on their pricing, but we're also making sure to make it worth our while to manage that project, to sell and manage it. And that kind of leads me into that last topic there is project management, right? There's some companies out there that they go get the work, right? They get the client to call them. They get the RFP sent to them. Then they field pricing from the subcontractors. So they get the pricing back. They typically find the cheapest one to go with. They put their markup on it. They send it back to the customer. And then they get an approval. And then that's about it. They go tell the subcontractor, hey, you're approved. Go ahead and go do it. But they're not involved with anything. They're not involved with the scheduling. They're not involved with the phase planning. They're not involved with the client communication leading up to it or the day of or throughout the project. They just sold it. And that's a model I've seen happen time and time again, especially in our industry. And I know it happens in many others. And it's something that actually is very frustrating, right? I understand that there's value to be had by getting the subcontractor the opportunity. But if that's really where it stops, is there really much of a relationship? Are you providing that much value to the client? Or are you somebody who's just a logo somewhere, a name on a bid, and then somebody said, yep, we'll go ahead and just give it to this ABC company? So that's a little bit more opinionated, but nonetheless, that's a different topic for a different day. So when it comes to project management, we have made sure to build our model out that says, if we're going to sell you this work, if we're going to be responsible enough to give you a price for it, to scope it, to get you all set up in our system, to get you to agree to our contract, our terms and conditions, everything like that, then we are going to also be responsible enough to manage the project for you. By managing the project for you, that means that about 99% of the projects that we use subcontractors for, we have our own representative that is minimally checking in throughout the day on site, checking in with the client, sending updates with photos that they are taking, that they're, making sure that we're meeting specs and requirements, quality of work, everything like that. And so we build into our cost, right? So it's our cost that we incur to pay somebody who works in our company to go out and manage these projects. Now, by managing these projects, like I said earlier, we're hiring these partners, these subcontractors, because we do not perform the work in-house. Therefore, that means that we are probably not educated to run the machines, to know about all the materials, the mixes, everything like that. We are educated enough to inform the client, to educate the client, and walk the client through how it's going to work. But doing all of it, we do not have the experience in. We know what we told the client they were going to get. We know what the end result needs to be. And so that's what that project manager is there for, to make sure that what we told the client matches what the end result's going to be. So if we tell them that we're going to repave their parking lot at 2 inches, well, then we're going to be the ones to make sure we put a tape measure on what gets taken out is at least 2 inches. And then what's getting put in is at least 2 inches, right? Our guys, our crews, we don't know how to run the pavers. We don't know how to run the concrete, buggies or the screeds or things like that. But we know how to make sure that the client is getting exactly what they told they were going to get, because that's ultimately what matters, right? If you talk to most clients and you ask them, what do you want out of a contractor? They kind of just sigh and say, if you could just do what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, we will be your client for life. It's all it takes. So we want to make sure that we offer that full transparency, that full hands-on project management for that client. So that way, when they call us again, they don't even have to worry about or think about, well, should I just go straight to the person who's going to do it? Because let's be honest, the people who are fantastic at doing a lot of the work aren't always the best people to manage and have client relationships with the clients. And so when you get somebody like us who specializes in client relationships, right? One of our core values is building relationships. And you get a company like us who specializes in it, then it makes that whole little like rub or that friction point that some people have obsolete, because they say, look, we trust Proline to handle this project. We understand it might even come at a little bit of a higher cost than if we went straight to the self-performing contractor, but we know what kind of experience we're going to get. We know what kind of relationship that they're going to try and build with us. And we know that these people stand behind what they said. And that's how we make sure that we use project management to justify paying ourselves to be able to offer more services to clients that we may not typically offer on our own. So all that to be said, Maddie, is as you're growing your business, like you said, you're newer to the space, you're newer to the industry, you're going to start getting clients asking you to perform services, as you have, that you don't yet do or know how to do in-house. And so the biggest piece of advice that I can offer you is to be transparent. Be honest and transparent with your clients. And if they ask you to do something, say, hey, I don't know how to do that, or I don't currently offer that service, or we are not set up to do XYZ, but we have strong, steady relationships with partners that can get you taken care of. And I will work to get this all put together. I'll get you fair pricing that's competitive with the retail, the retail pricing for this scope. And then the only way that we make our money is if we manage the project and make sure that you're happy with everything at the end of it. And so that way it gives that client that peace of mind to know going into it how it's all going to look, right? There's a lot of companies out there, like I said earlier, that sell the work. They do all the upfront stuff. There's no subcontractors involved. And then boom, they get a contract and that company who sold the work is no longer involved. And some random Joe Blow shows up on this client's property and they say, whoa, I thought I was working with ABC company, right? So making sure that you're transparent and honest right from the jump is going to make this so much easier for you and the clients. Because I cannot tell you how many people get so frustrated with contractors because they just don't know what they're going to get. Because so many contractors want to try and play these games. They want to have smoke and mirrors. They want to shit and try and sell this big old thing that's really just way more simple than what they make it to be. But they just don't want to be honest about it. So from my 9 years of experience of doing this, I can tell you that being honest about it has yet to bite me in the ass. So I would hope to think that it would be the same for you, that you can be honest about it, you can be transparent about it, and you can continue building your reputation in the industry and in your market as somebody who's trustworthy, who's honest, and who's dependable. Because ultimately, those character traits of trustworthy, honesty, and dependability is what's going to be the foundation of building your reputation and your opportunity in your business. So, as always, I hope that the last couple of minutes here provided a little bit of value, not just to Maddie, but to anyone else who's listening to this, who's trying to think about different ways to grow their business, to manage their business, to justify how they get paid, or whatever it might be. As you guys know, I try to be as transparent as possible here with you. That's what I just said creates a great foundation for growing. And that's why we've been able to continue to put out episode after episode each week to provide value to you guys, because I get the feedback that there's folks like you guys out there listening to this and you're trying to do the right thing. Ultimately, that's what I want, guys, here. When we're paving the way for the future, not just in our industry, but in any company that's providing a service that is taking money from a client to give them something in return, as simple as we want to define that for business, anybody who's doing that, I want to pave the way for them to do it in the most honest, the most ethical, and the most dependable way possible. Because if you can do that, your clients will be happy. If your clients are happy, they will tell more people about you. If they tell more people about you, your authority in your space, in your market, in your industry will continue to grow and have more impact and weed out the contractors who want to sit and play the games, take advantage of people, and create a bad name for us guys who are trying to do the right thing. So if you want to see more about what we do and how we do that, as always, I encourage you to follow along on our YouTube page, our Proline account. You can follow my personal journey. I try to share and post all the business stuff that we do, but our social media game is strong, as they say. And it is constantly getting updated every Friday with new project videos, employee spotlights, so that way you guys can see the ins and outs of who we are and what we do. But as always, guys, I always encourage you to send in your questions, shoot me messages, comments, whatever it might be. I'm happy to help answer anything and have a little bit of a discussion about it, and hopefully provide a little bit of value to you and anyone else you might share this with. So with that being said, drop a comment, hit the like, share it with somebody you know who might get some value out of this, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week.